Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly training video. Today we'll be talking about what to do to help our dogs who are a little bit intimidated or afraid when we approach them. So this is for dogs who run away or cower when you or another family member walks toward them. All right, so does your dog run away from you? 3 tips for building comfort with approach. Who is this for? This is for you if your dog moves away from you when you approach or otherwise acts in a fearful way, maybe cowers, tucks their tail, or hides, and you would like to train your dog to be more comfortable and not run away when you walk toward them. All right, so tips for working with these dogs that don't like to be approached. Tip number 1. Approach only as far as your dog can tolerate. And by that I mean you want to stop your approach before your dog gives you a negative reaction of any kind. And this is for training setups, but you'll want to also do this as much as possible just in day-to-day life. And I'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting that because I know this can be difficult not to approach your dog closer than they are really comfortable with. But I'll give you some tips for working around that in day-to-day life in a little bit here. So tip number 1, only approach them as far as they are comfortable. Tip number 2, make sure your approach predicts good stuff. So when you approach, toss some treats to them, or if they're afraid of you throwing treats, just put some treats down on the floor or ground. And then tip number 3, leave right away. Keep the interaction very short. This makes it a lot easier for a lot of our sensitive dogs. So I've got just a couple quick examples, video examples. All right, so here we have on the far left, we have little Pancake. And I'm doing this training video outside because it allows us to have more space to work on this. This is my husband approaching him. He'll be coming in on the right side of the screen. So remember, tip number 1 is just approach as close as your dog is okay with. There it is. Number 2, treats. And then leave right away. Approach, treats, and leave. And you can see that Pancake isn't cowering, he's not running away, he's not growling or barking. So those are just some real simple exercises to increase his comfort with being approached by my husband. As a bonus tip, try your best not to approach your dog too closely outside of these deliberately set up training sessions. And especially don't approach your dog and then do something that they would consider bad to them. So if they're afraid of having a harness put on, don't approach them and then corner them and try to put a harness on, or give them a bath, or try to put them in their crate if they don't like being put in the crate. This will really hurt your training and compromise your ability to teach your dog that you approaching is actually safe for them and good news. So even when you think you're not training, like, no, I just have to get this done, I'm not doing a training session right now, just remember that it is all training to your dog. They're always learning, whether or not you are deliberately teaching. So what do you do if you do have to go too close to your dog? Like, they don't like it, but you need to approach them. Well, first I would advise doing your best to avoid the circumstances in which you would need to approach them. So talk to your trainer or brainstorm with your family ways you could get around the need to walk right up to your dog if your dog is afraid when you do that. So if say you need to go into their safe space and clean up some potty pads or whatever, can you wait until they've moved, to a different part of the safe space or wherever, moved away so you're not walking right at them? When you need to give them food, do you have to, instead of walking right up to where they are resting and putting it down, can you just take one step into the room, put the food down, and leave? So there are often ways that you can change how you are interacting with your dog in order to avoid these approaches that are just too scary for them. Now, if after talking to your trainer and brainstorming with your family, there are still a few instances in which you just can't think of a good workaround, you can at least try to minimize how scary these approaches are for your fearful dog by averting your gaze. So don't stare at them, kind of look off to the side. Do your best to avoid walking straight at them. So you could kind of, curve around them or walk sort of at an angle to them instead of straight at them. And regardless, still leave treats behind when you go. Just, it may help eventually help your dog feel better about this, even though it's a little too much for them right now. And finally, you can try to add a signal for these bad or scary approaches. You could just say every time something like, sorry, I have to come in there. And that this might help protect your training in other scenarios. Okay, so real quick again, summarizing training tolerance to approach, some tips. Approach only as close as your dog tolerates without any negative reaction. Use treats and leave right away. And then, as I mentioned, avoid as best you can approaching too close, and talk to your trainer about how you can do workarounds so you don't have to come closer to your dog than they are comfortable with. All right, everyone, I hope this is helpful. If you would like more confidence building tips delivered to your inbox each week and get a link to our new weekly content, go ahead and sign up at the link at the bottom of the slide, dogkindtraining.com/newsletter, and then you'll also get notified of any new offerings or special deals we have going on. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week.